Hi everyone, it's Matthew from M&E Art. Thought I'd give you a tip today, something I learnt when I was starting to paint. I don't know if you've ever done a painting on paper, um, especially when you're using watercolours or gouache and you've had problems where the paper's warped. You've done a lovely painting, but the paper is really doesn't lay flat. The reason for this is because when you're wetting paper and it's getting wet more in various areas, then it's drying uneven. Basically, the paper shrinks and pulls, and that's how you get the horrible warp effect. To overcome this, and this is something I found out from other YouTube videos and advice from the framing shop I go to. It's basically if you get your paper, and it doesn't matter which paper you're using, the same applies whether it's cheap copy paper like this or more expensive paper. Paper I use is Archer's hot press paper. Really good paper. I couldn't recommend it enough. The one I use is 140 gram. Really smooth paper, and it's very forgiving. The thicker the paper you go, the less fine it will be, but yeah, I find the 140 gram is just the right balance for me, for the work I do, and because it's so smooth, it suits my fine detail that I like to include in my paintings. It's very, as I say, it's very forgiving. You could put paint on there and then you could use a brush really hard to kick it up again and to paint over, and the fibres stay really compressed and down. You don't have any real issues with this paper. It's quite expensive per sheet, but definitely well worth it. Right, so when you're wanting to gum down your paper, this is how you stop the warping on the paper. So you get your paper and you want to soak this in water. If it's a small piece of paper, it will fit in a sink. If you're doing a bigger painting, I tend to fill up a bath full of water, just cold water, and you submerge it into the water for, depending how big the paper is, but I usually say about 30 to 40 seconds until the paper is wet. If you are painting on something cheap like this copy paper, then to be honest, you only need to soak it for a few seconds really. Once you've got your paper, you bring it down, shake off any excess water off it. Then you want to lay it flat onto the table, or I use a board for painting on so I can move it about. Make sure there's nothing on the board, make sure it's totally clean, and then lay it flat. Then you get some gum tape. Let me just grab it. Just get this tape from my local art supplier. It's gummed on one side, so all you do is wet the side with the gum and you stick your paper down. Start with the top edge and make sure the lines are nice and straight, because once you've finished your painting you're going to want to cut it out. So yeah, gum your top edge first, and then make sure the paper's nice and smooth, and then do each of the sides and then the bottom edge, and then don't do anything on it until it's dry. You can use a hairdryer or other heater to try and dry the paper quicker, but I find if you're blowing hot air at the paper, it tends to kick up the edge of the tape. So I usually wet it and gum it down in the evenings and let it dry overnight. Whilst it's drying, you'll notice the paper will sort of warp a bit, but as it dries, it will dry totally flat, and then you've got a nice surface to paint on that's nice and smooth and flat, and it will remain flat throughout the whole process and when you take it up again. So you need to, while you're doing your painting, you need to keep it completely intact. Don't move it. You need to keep it gummed down until you've finished the painting, and then you can take it up and trim around the edges. To get it off a board or table, It's probably best to use some kind of board because you'll want to score around here, around the edges, to take it off carefully. What you don't want to do is pull it up and rip your painting. So that's my first tip from M&E Art. Hope it helps people. It definitely helped me when I was learning to paint. I hope to bring more of these short videos to you in the future. If you like what you see, please give me a thumbs up and also subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thanks ever so much. Take care. Bye.